July 26th. We're looking at Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame, and even Fibonacci is confirming what we've been seeing these past few days. That is, it's going to reach the 64,000 zone, which is the middle of the channel. Throughout the video, we're going to study what it's going to do for this upcoming week, also where we stand in the long term, and the best moments to enter for intraday or scalping trades. But what I'm getting at is to tell you what it's doing. Normally, I don't pay much attention to indicators. Instead, we just try to look for clues about what the big players are doing, since they're the ones who, in a way, through their strategies, influence the price movement. However, Fibonacci often gives us some very specific and very accurate clues about price movement. We were seeing it here. If you draw Fibonacci, you can interpret it in many ways. But if you draw it from the highest point to the lowest point, it gives you key elements of the movement. Key elements are, for example, 66%, 50%, all these percentages, these lines you see here. And if you look at each one of them, it's marking a Now we're right at this last high, and the diagonal that's forming is telling us that we're on the 4-hour chart, so in about 8 hours, that is. With this, the next two 4-hour candles will already see the entry into that $64,000 channel, and probably as the week starts soon, because Bitcoin works very differently during the week compared to from Sunday night to Friday afternoon and then the weekend. It's quite likely that we'll see some significant movement as the market opens up fully. Right now we're in weekend mode, which is actually quite different from what we're going to see during the week. Fibonacci and the analysis we've been doing these past days, looking for clues from the big players, are telling us about that entry below 64,000 and the retest from below, which is different from what we're doing now. Anyway, for now, let's go ahead and set the specific time frame to exactly 1 week. If what you're interested in is making money through trading, whether professionally or as a side job, I've designed a course where you'll stop looking at indicators and start understanding what the market is really doing, what the big players are actually doing, and you'll be able to make money the way they do. Let's continue with the analysis. So we can see exactly which phase of, let's remove Fibonacci so everything looks cleaner. You already know that the cleaner the chart is, the easier it is to interpret everything. And that's why indicators often create too much noise for us. You have to use just the elements that confirm that search for institutional activity. The best thing, of course, is to look for volume, because institutions can't hide their volume. But I'm telling you, Fibonacci does give a lot of positive results. You shouldn't rely solely on Fibonacci. It's more to complement the search for those strategies. All right. By the way, I'm Mikkel Vasquez, and after 15 years in professional trading, what works best to predict price movement is to look for the strategies of those who want to trick you in trading, which are the big players and institutions. The phase 1 was telling you about in the long term is accumulation. And now, after reaching the highest phase, that is the resistance of this accumulation, the journey begins again in search of that support. You know that many times, in the middle of the channel, it gets stuck for a while, starts moving up or down, and those are the clues we try to look for on this channel every day, which is why I post updates. But basically, what we're going to see is that break of 64, unless a significant volume comes in, a really big volume of 1.5 or more. I'm going to pull up the volume so we can take a look at it. We're already on the 4-hour chart. We've seen the Wyckoff phase in the long term. It's just a good time to always keep in mind how we fit a smaller time frame into a larger one. Very good. These volume spikes are the appearance of the big players, those touches I always tell you about that they give to the price. Once they make a move, the price goes exactly in the opposite direction. We need to see 3 clear elements to spot that movement. One is reaching an important zone. We have support at 60,000, resistance at 68,000, and the middle of the channel is 64,000. We need to look for 3 elements to see that development of the price movement. First, a significant touch from the big players above 1.5 on the 4-hour chart. Each time frame has its own value. You just have to look for the volume spike and then see how it disappears over the next 3, 4, or 5 candles, then another spike, and so on. You can see this in all the charts. Very well. We need to see a volume spike, a move into one of the key zones, and a Japanese candlestick pattern showing rejection or confirmation, like a doji, for example. A doji is super important, but also long wicks with a small spread, which in the VSA methodology, that is volume spread analysis, meaning how we relate volume, which is the strength, to the spread of the candles, are very, very suitable for making good entries. I explain all this in my course. I've left the link in the description with a 50% discount. Also, for those of you who do intraday trading or scalping, I share the 2 trades I make daily in the VIP Telegram channel. There are only 100 spots available. I think we're already close to 80 members. When we reach 100 spots, only people who are users of mex.com will be able to join. But anyway, there are still spots left so that any of you can join this group. Very well. So we have the forecast set for next week. Today is July 26th, starting from the 27th. That entry already in the middle of the channel will start to retest, as we saw when it did the opposite. When it was already entering the last phase of that middle of the channel, we saw how it touched, pulled back, touched, pulled back. Well, now we're going to see it, but from exactly the opposite perspective. Break, try to retest, pull back, try to fool retail traders. That's what it's all about. What the big players do, how they make their money, is by trying to scare or give hope to retail traders. They go in the opposite direction, and that's how they do business. All right, so now retail traders will always think it's going to go back up again to the 68,000 zone, but in reality, the price will slowly try to drop toward the 60,000 area. Like I said, unless we see a really strong surge in volume and the price moves along with it, in other words, strength equals the spread of the candles. Not just a wick plus spread, but it has to be equal to the spread. All right, like I was saying about the short term, now over the weekend, the movement is slower. We already mentioned yesterday that the price was going to hover around the $64,000 area, a bit lower. We set a support 300 points below 64,000 and another 300 above. You see that it reached the 300 above? Now it's using that as support, and it will go back up again to retest that level above, and then it'll break through, aiming for 64,000 during the day today, Sunday, July 26th. As for the challenge, the July challenge, which I started with $500, I'm making micro trades of $15, $20, now $30 every day. The position from yesterday got a bit stuck. That's why my TP hasn't been hit yet. I'm going to keep it open until tonight because I think it's going to go back up to 64,000. If it doesn't reach that level, I'll close the position, but in any case, there's a lot of room, and for now, there will be profits in this July challenge. Also, whatever I earn in July, I started with $500, now it's at $900, over $900. Whatever I make, for example, $400, $500, $600, I'll raffle it off among everyone who signs up at mexe.com and makes their first deposit. I'm Michael Vasquez, and this is Daily Bitcoin Analysis. I really appreciate you watching this video, and as I always say, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my experience with you after more than 15 years in professional trading. See you tomorrow. The week is starting, the clues are starting, the movement's starting. There's a whole lot to study within Bitcoin, and a lot of money to be made in trading. See ya, I'll be waiting for you.